This is a 1980 Johnson 70 horsepower. I'm gonna clean the carburetors on it. I've never worked on one of these motors before, so I'm just gonna show you what I find out as I get there. I'm gonna start out by getting this black air box out of here. Looks like I'm gonna take off some screws and see what's behind there. All right, I got that outside cover out of the way. Looking at it now, it looks like I have 3 bolts on the face of each carburetor I'm gonna have to pull out, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, I just popped those bolts loose. You see it on the back here. There's a little hose connected to the box down there. Let's see where that's at. Kind of the bottom on the right side, so I'm gonna pop that loose, and then this whole thing should be out of the way. All right, it's out of the way, so now I can see more clearly in here. Get the carburetors and all the linkage. I guess my game plan, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to disconnect the fuel lines going to each of the carburetors. Just put them down there. And then there's this thing right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then a 4th right here. Once I get those out of the way, I'll probably come over here and start disconnecting some of this linkage. Get all that out of the way. And then once I do that, I am pretty sure I should be able to start loosening up the carburetor bolts that are holding it on there. So that's my game plan. We'll see if it changes at all. All right, I just got these 3 small lines that was like that off of there. I'm not too sure how this works. I don't know. I've never really worked on these motors before, 3 carburetors, but I don't know. But I got them off of there. This big line, I assume that's the main fuel line right there. I was having some trouble getting it off of there, so I'm just going to wait until I have this middle carb removed, so that way I can kind of move it around and wiggle jiggle and kind of get it off of there. So now I'm going to move on to the linkages over here. The farthest toward the front of the motor, or front of the boat linkage, is your choke. It's attached to this little actuator here. I think I'm going to attack this linkage first. Not too sure how these work, so I'm going to kind of fiddle with it, and I'll pick up in a second. Okay, I got it now with this choke linkage. It's all connected together, of course. These parts are easy to take off. You just kind of snap them out, you can snap them back in. That's how those work. As far as attaching it to the actuator here, so looking, there's this little O-ring right there, little pink thing. I'm going to take it off, and then this little coiled up wire should just slide right off of there, and then we're freed up as far as this little thing goes right here. So that's what I'm about to do. I actually scratched that plan. I started to pry a little bit at this thing, and it started to come apart, that little pink O-ring. And so what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to take the see if it'll focus, the little tag end to that spring. I'm just going to push it in, and that'll open up the spring, or not a spring, it's coiled up wire enough to kind of slip on over that O-ring, so I can just keep it in place, and I won't have to rig something else up once I'm done with it. It'll just keep that O-ring intact. So that's what I'm about to do. Okay, that went exactly how I wanted it to there. I was able to just slip it over that little retainer O-ring. So now just going to go through, start disconnecting these linkages to the choke. Okay, I got those taken off the choke. Now I'm looking at the throttle linkage. Looks pretty self-explanatory. This little plate, whenever you accelerate or push down a throttle up by the steering wheel, it's going to move it, hit this, and then adjust your throttle or your plate on the carburetor. And this right here looks to be all one piece. It goes all the way up the top carburetor, attaches, kind of clips into the middle there, and all the way down to the bottom. So I'm just going to pop it out. Looks like a little retainer thing. I'll just move that out of the way like that. That'll work. And then, yeah, once I get this little linkage out of the way, that should be all there is for the throttle. All right, there's your throttle linkage. Got it out of the way. Put it on here. So now, as far as I can tell, that should be all of it out of the way, besides this extra fuel line. Of course, I'm going to deal with that in a minute. So now I'm going to start attacking these carburetor bolts, get the carburetors off of there. I'm not sure, but I would imagine you probably want to put your carburetors back where you found them. Yep, obviously this middle one's different because it's got an extra fuel line. I reckon that's the main fuel line coming in. So of course you need to make sure this middle one goes back in the middle, I would think. But as far as the top and bottom, I don't know if they're interchangeable, but it'd be a good idea to keep track of which ones are which, so that, I don't know, if it's supposed to be like this, we want to put it back like this. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, there's our top one. I'm gonna mark it with a piece of tape or something just so I can make sure it don't mix up the top and the bottom ones. There's the middle one. I'm gonna get that fuel line off of there. All right, just got the bottom one off of there. They all came out without really any issues. I just used a regular sized 1/2-inch wrench, and that's what did it. So now I'm gonna take these carburetors over to my bench and start cleaning them out. All right, I'm gonna clean them and put them all back together independently of each other, so I don't accidentally mix up parts, just in case it matters. Starting with the top one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off that bowl. Got some flathead screws, 4 of them there. Okay, got that bowl off. Doesn't look too bad, but that doesn't mean much. There could still be some clogged jets. That's what I'm hoping for. I just bought the boat and the motor, hoping it just needs a carb clean. But anyways, I'm gonna spray carb clean down in there, and then down through that small hole there. There should be a little passageway somewhere. Yeah, a little passageway in the bottom down there. Shoot it out there. This hole right here, oh, there we go. That one goes down and comes up from the needle. So when it's closed, nothing should come out. When that's open, there should be fuel coming out from up underneath that pin. Clean that out. And then the bowl, the cover itself, I'm gonna clean out down in there. Then I'm also gonna probably take this off and shoot some carb clean through there, make sure that's all cleaned out. And then inside of it, let's see what we got here. Okay, looks like we have, let's see, 1, 2, and 3 holes, little holes in the bottom there. I'm gonna make sure those are cleaned out. What else we got going on? Let's see, anything back here? Yeah, anywhere there's a hole, even if I don't know if it goes to anything, like here, that's just a bolt hole. I'm gonna spray down in there. Anything, I'm just gonna shoot carb clean in it, check it out, make sure it's not a passageway. If you clean everything, you won't miss anything. So that's what I'm gonna do. If I find anything else, I'll video that and let you know. Also, you want to spray out any fuel connector inlets that you see. That's also important. All right, I got that top one taken apart, clean, put it back together. Now I'm gonna work on this middle one and see what I find, see if anything's different. All right, yeah, from what I can tell, everything looks just about the same as the top one, with the exception of the added fuel line connector there. Just make sure that's cleaned out. Yeah, we're gonna do the same thing, blow out all the same holes, you know, clean out the bowl and all that. So just rinse and repeat. All right, I got the middle one put back together. Now I'm about to take apart the bottom one. I would assume that it's the same. Yeah, from what I can tell, it is the same passages and everything as the other ones, so just clean all of them. All right, they're all done now, so now I will take them on back to the motor. I'm just gonna set them back in place, get that big fuel line back on the middle one while it's free and more malleable. All right, I just went ahead and just slipped them on the bolts, all of them. I went ahead and got that big fuel line on there. on that middle one. So now I'm just gonna go through and put the nuts back on, tighten them up, and then we'll work backwards. So I'm gonna connect all the linkages, get all that good to go, and I'll connect this thing on there, and you know, just tie up any loose ends, check my work. Okay, a tip that I just learned: put your bottom carburetor on and thread the bolts on before you connect that fuel line to the middle one. So now it's kind of sandwiched in there, and it's going to be a problem. So yeah, put the bottom one on first. All right, I got the nuts on there. They're all tightened down. So now I'm going to start with my throttle linkage, this one right here. See if I can do it one-handed. Probably not, but just recall where that goes. Bottom one goes right there. Middle one goes right here with this little clip over it. The top one goes right there. All right, got throttle linkage on there. This little wire, bend it up and over like that. So now that's good. Now we'll move on to the choke linkage. Remember, there was 2 of these, so I'm gonna put those back on where the choke linkage goes. All right, take note of where the short ends are and where the longer ends are. The longer end goes toward the top one, and on the bottom we're going to put this longer end toward the bottom. So the short end of this linkage kind of goes, they both go toward the middle carburetor. Now we're going to put this little wire back on that goes to that actuator. Bend it up, over, push it on there if we can. Yep, there we go. It's back on there. Make sure it works good. Yep, looks right. So that should be all the linkages. So now I'm gonna put this thing back on there and see where we're at. Alright, I don't see any more parts for the linkages or for the carburetor, so now we're back. This cover fits up, and we're gonna put our 9 bolts in, tighten them up. Alright, got my bolts back on there, so now we're on this last step right here, putting this cover on. If I can get it with one hand. Anyways, you see where the screws go. I only have 2 of the screws for some reason, so we'll work with that. But yeah, just fix this plate on there. All right, that's back on there. That should be everything. I don't see any more pieces that I have laying around, so we'll see if that fires up, but that should be it for cleaning the carburetors on this 1980 70 horsepower Johnson. Thank you.